The odds are in for the 2026 NRL season. The bookmakers have had their say, and Dean Ritchie, some very interesting odds that have come out via the tab this week. I want to get your thoughts. South Sydney Rabbitohs written off before a ball's even been kicked.
Yeah, a bit surprised, Mobsy. $21 for South Sydney in Premiership betting from the tab. That's from the side. Let me go through some names. Latrell Mitchell, Campbell Graham, Cam Murray, Alex Johnson, Cody Walker, Jairo, Keon Kolomatangi, Jack Wighton, Brandon Smith, and David Fafita. 8 Origin players in there paying $21. I think it's far too high. Yes, they had a bad season last year, and yes, they had a lot of injuries last year, but gee, if I was in charge of the bookmaking over there at the tab, I'd have the Bunnies at about $12, $13.
I'm a little concerned. So they're ninth to make the top 8, ninth in the betting, and I think that's probably about right. They haven't made the finals in 3 years, Dog.
Yeah, 3 years, that's correct. It is an ageing roster, but I think if they can get everyone on the field at the same time, Mobsy, and moving in the right direction. And Latrell's key here, let's be honest. He is the man that probably hasn't quite lived up to what they'd hoped he would achieve at South Sydney. But if Latrell could have a big year, which I think he's primed for, he's had a great off-season. You've still got Cody there. It is genuinely an all-star roster. And I think if they can get moving the Bunnies, I honestly think they're a top 4 side.
They're not going to have the injury-riddled season that they did this year. There's no way in the world that can happen again. However, I do have concerns about this ageing roster that you talked about. Cody Walker's not getting any younger. You know, you've got Latrell you got to keep on the field with his injury history as well. And can they get the best out of David Fafita? Because it's a risk for Wayne Bennett, yeah?
Yeah, well, no one's got the best out of David Fafita, essentially, other than Bennett when he first came into NRL, which I think was about 2018, wasn't it, Mobsy? So, look, Fafita is a key here. If they can get him rocking and rolling, powering on the edges there, I think he can make a real difference to that South Sydney side. Let's not forget, too, Mobsy, that Cam Murray missed the entire year last year through that Achilles sustained in the pre-season. He's their leader. He's their captain. You get Cam Murray back out on the field, it's a different-looking South Sydney side.
The Parramatta Eels are ninth in top 8 betting and $21 to break the longest premiership drought currently, 40 years. You think the bookmakers have got this right?
I do. I think they have got it spot on right here. Look, I think Parramatta can make a dent this year, and I think Jason Ryles will take them to the next level. But where that level ends, I don't think is in the finals. I think they'll pull up just short. I know they finished the season very strongly last year and really roared home to show to their fans that the Ryles era is heading in the right direction. But I think overall there's just too many better sides than Parramatta. They've obviously lost Dylan Brown too, which is a significant loss. And I think that they'll just fall short of playing finals footy in 2026.
Well, you look at this, the start of this season will be Jonah Pezzett at 6, Mitchell Moses at 7. Neither of those guys are available for the first at the start of this year. They didn't have Jonah Pezzett and Mitchell Moses was out injured and they went 0-4. I can't see that happening this time around. And 3 wins to end the season with, the modest signings that Jason Ryles had made in that time. I just got a little feeling that if they start the season well, bring in Jack DeBell and Jonah Pezzett play well. I know they've lost Zach Lomax. I know they've lost Dylan Brown, but there's just something about what he's building there, Jason Ryles. I think they're a sneaky hope for the 8 there.
Yeah, DeBellin will give them a bit of steel, which is perhaps something they have been missing the last few years. I think the loss of Lomax will be quite considerable, Mobsy. Apart from his try-scoring ability, he's a big, strong body. He's got a great carry out of his own end. And, of course, he kicks goals, hence why he's been picked in the New South Wales State of Origin side for the last couple of years. So I think that the absence of Brown and Lomax will work against them. Parramatta will move forward in the roles push to become highly competitive every year. It will be a successful year, but as I said, I think they'll fall just short of playing finals footy.
The West Tigers haven't played finals footy since 2011. If I was to offer you $4.50 for them to make the top 8 this year, would you take it?
No.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I don't think the Tigers are there just yet. I think a bit like Parramatta, I think they are moving in a direction that Benji Marshall wants them to move in. They've recruited pretty well in the last couple of years. But I think there's just something still missing at the Concord. It's hard to put your finger on, and if it was that easy, I guess we'd all be determining why they've been so miserably unsuccessful in the last few years. I think they will move forward. I haven't got it in front of me, Mobsy. I think they finished 13th or 14th last year. So, it was a slight improvement from a 3-time wooden spooners. But I think there might be another notch or two above. this coming year. 11, 12, maybe even 10th if they get a bit of a roll on here and there, maybe through Origin time, given they won't have many Origin players. But I can't see them playing finals footy again.
So speaking of wooden spoon, they're $6.50 in the most losses market. Do you think there's a concern that they could drop down? They could go backwards?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt in the world. I mean, there are other clubs obviously ahead of them in that most losses market, the Dragons, the Knights and the Titans. But, the Knights and the Titans have got brand new coaches. They'll probably come out full of beans, full of fire. And I think Flano lost a lot of games very narrowly last year. I think there was 6 by 6 points or less. You win half of those, he's probably well and truly off the bottom. So, look, I don't think West Tigers will come last, but certainly if you're a betting man and there's most losses and a market there, I'd maybe having a buck or two on the Tigers to run last.
I like the Tigers to improve because they did a big recruitment drive last year. They got Jerome Luai in. Obviously, they had issue with Lockie Galvin during the year where he was a mid-season release. So there've been some minor adjustments this off-season. Kai Pearce-Paul comes in, but a period of stability, which you haven't seen a lot at the West Tigers. So I guess does that throw the pressure back onto Benji Marshall now to get the best out of this roster because it's now moulding in the shape of how he wants to see it?
Yeah, most certainly. Look, Benji's now in his third, I think, full year at West Tigers. So, the honeymoon period is over for Benji. They can't keep saying this was Tim Sheens' roster and Tim Sheens' side. It's Benji's team. But look, Mobsy, it's very hard. We've got a lot of good teams in rugby league these days. There's no easy beats, but clearly we've only got 8 teams that play finals footy. So, the more teams miss out than play finals footy. And as I said, I just don't think the Tigers have got the cattle. I don't think they've got the halves, and I don't think they've got the edge players to really challenge the top sides.
Now, St George Illawarra are 17th. They are $51 to win the premiership. The equal longest prize of any team. They're 15th in top 8 betting. $4.50 second favourites in the most losses market. Do you give them a hope for 2026?
I do. I actually really think the Dragons can be the big improvers in 2026.
How do you figure that?
Oh, I just think that if you look back at their losses in 2025, as I said moments ago, I think they lost 6 games by 6 points or less. I mean, that is a lot. And that's through probably just a little bit of lack of cohesion at key times and the fact that their halves through, Lachlan Ilias were a bit disrupted during the year. They've got Daniel Atkinson coming in this year. I think he will form the halves partnership with Kyle Flanagan. And big Josh Kerr is returning as well. Gutherson's returned to training early. Damien Cook's back to training early. Val Holmes is in good nick. It's a good roster. I think it's an underrated roster. Sure, Flano's struggled in his first 2 years, 11th and 15th. But I reckon the Dragons are going to be the big improvers this year. And if you want a bolter Mobsy for the top 8 at a good price, I'd have a sneaky look at the Dragons.
Well, you look at that roster, though, Dog. They lost Jack DeBellin, who's been the heart and soul of that forward pack for a number of years, and he's gone off to Parramatta. And you could see the reaction of Dragons fans when he signed with the Eels about how upset they were. That gives you an indication of their thoughts on him and how well he's been going. How do you replace that?
You probably don't replace him per se, but they've got a lot of young kids coming through the Dragons. Shane Flanagan's really focused on pathways in the last few years, and we all know the nursery down there throughout the South Coast and Illawarra areas. So I think, look, Jack DeBellin will be replaced. He's 30 years old. He's been a wonderful servant for the club. I don't think there's still a harder hitter in the game. When Jack DeBellin gets you, he gets you. But I think in terms of replacing him, it can be done. And I think, if Cole can go to another level, and as I wrote a story last week in the Telegraph, Shane Flanagan wants his side to take a few more risks, take the shackles off him. And as he rightly pointed out, we score one more try every game in 2025, we play finals footy.
There's a lot of pressure on Dan Atkinson to provide that try scoring now. So, right, he's got to be the guy that sets them up now because that's the big in for their halves.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's had limited impact at Cronulla in 2025. He wasn't so much on the outer, but he was going. They had a settled halves down there at Shark Park. But I think Atkinson will be the one that gives them the spunk that they need, a bit of the left field variety. And I think him and Cole could form a very good partnership in the scrum base.
The Daly Cherry Evans effect is in full force at the Sydney Roosters. $7 equal third favourites for the premiership alongside the Melbourne Storm. You have concern.
Yeah, I think the Roosters should be a touch further out in betting. I just think that is a bit too short, $7. Cherry Evans will obviously be a massive inclusion. The Roosters had a good year this year after losing a lot of players after the 2024 season. They made the finals. I thought they might have made a bit of a dent in those finals, but of course they went out in week 1 down there at Cronulla So I just think that the Roosters should be, in my eyes, around $10, $11, $12. I think 7 is just a bit too short to have them alongside Melbourne Storm, who have been in 2 successive grand finals. As I said, is a bookie's call, but I think they might have got that one wrong.
Yeah, there's a guy called Reece Robson coming into that spine now. So with Tedesco, DCE, Sam Walker, Reece Robson, that spine matches any in the competition. I think they're in for a big year because I think everybody thinks that the Roosters probably overachieved from the talent that they lost heading into the 2025 season. So I think they're about on the money there.
Yeah, DCE is the key. It'll really be dependent on how he settles into the Roosters football, into the Roosters style. We know he's a great player at Manly. Is he a system player? Can he go and play another club to the same elite level that he achieved down there at Brookvale over 15 seasons? Look, I think Cherry Evans will be a star at the Roosters, but there's still question marks, no doubt, as to whether he can slot in at his age, which is 37, 38 years old, to a brand new side and a side that's always been very elite and very successful.
Now, while you're on your tall poppy syndrome high horse, you've also potting the Melbourne Storm at $7. Grand finalist last year.
Yeah, no, I think Melbourne Storm will be in and around there, but I think this is Craig Bellamy's greatest challenge. He's been there for 20-odd years, 25 years, Mobsy, and of course he will go down as arguably one of the greatest coaches of all time, if not the greatest. But I think losing Eli Katoa was a massive blow, of course. Young Pizzette's gone, Nelson Asafa-Solomona's gone, and of course, out of the blue, Ryan Pappenhausen's walked out. So there's 4 big stars, albeit Asafa-Solomona and Pezzett didn't play in the grand final. But 4 big stars he's got to have to try to replace. It's not going to be easy. Eli Katoa is the big one for me. I think that they were well beaten in that grand final, and I'd have Melbourne just drifting out a little bit more. I'd have them around $9, $10 if I was certainly framing the odds up there at the tab.
And you've broken the news about a potential replacement there for Eli Katoa down there at the Storm.
Yeah, it'll be Jack Hetherington, the former Newcastle Firebrand, a good player. Jack Hetherington brings plenty of hardness and plenty of aggression. He's played at the Dogs, he's played at Penrith, he's been on a loan at the Warriors, and he will be the one that will go in and try to fill in that large gap that Eli Katoa plays on the right edge down there at Melbourne. Look, I don't think Jack Hetherington has the offence that Eli Katoa offers, but in terms of a replacement, I think he'd be very handy.
I like the signing of Hetherington down there because he's that stereotype forward that Melbourne brings in, unassuming, underrated at other clubs, and he's the type of guy that I think Craig Bellamy will get the most out of. Obviously not an Eli Katoa like-for-like replacement, not saying he's going to be playing the same sort of footy that Katoa was before he went down, but I think that's a really astute signing, and it's been good for Hetherington because he's been able to keep that red mist at bay in the last couple of years. That did plague him early on in his career, but seems to have that under control. So I think with a little bit there, but mate, you've been saying this for 20 years. Craig Bellamy's greatest challenge. Every year is his greatest challenge. And
he always seems to jam up the critics, doesn't he?
I'll tell you what, though, top 2 all the time.
It is interesting with Hetherington because he's not your quintessential Melbourne player, which is a hard-working bloke who gets about his business quietly and just gets the job done. Next up mentality, or next man up, I should say. But Hetherington comes with a bit of aggression, as you say, a bit of red mist, and he's got a bit of madness about him, Jack Hetherington, which is quite intimidating for opposition players. But it'd be interesting to see how and if Craig Bellamy tries to curtail that aggression.
Now, 12 months ago when the 2025 odds came out, the Canberra Raiders were listed as second favourites for the Wooden Spoon. Fast forward, minor premiership, and obviously didn't have the final series they wanted, but the snubs don't stop for Ricky Stewart's Raiders.
Yeah, they're paying $15 to win the premiership. Mobsy, that's the 6th line of betting I think the Raiders are on. This from the side that won the minor premiership this year by 4 points. We're desperately unlucky down there in week 1, of course, when they technically beat Brisbane twice, only to be beaten controversially late. And then the Sharks went down there and got them, of course, in that elimination semi-final. I think $15 is disrespectful. I really do. I think the Raiders deserve to be higher than that. And it only further proves Ricky Stewart's theory, with maybe a little bit of a chip on the shoulder with old Rick, even though I love him dearly, that no one seems to rate the Raiders. And he's only got to look at the tab odds right now to see that no one does rate the Raiders. But there are certain people in the media, i.e. the Bulldog, who does rate them very highly.
But do you think it's a reflection of the Jamal Fogarty effect, that losing their minor premiership winning halfback, who at his age... prime of his career, and so now you've got Ethan Strange, who's terrific at 5'8", and then Ethan Sanders at halfback, who is untried, big talent coming through the ranks at Parramatta. Canberra were able to poach him with a succession plan for the future, and now he's been thrown the keys to the castle to try and run this team. So I have concerns. It's a big loss in a key position.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. Ethan Sanders, we don't know too much about him. I mean, we obviously know he's a burgeoning star and one to watch. It does make both their playmakers young kids, Mobsy. There's no senior player there. This year they had Strange as the kid, but of course Fogarty's been around the block 1,000 times. So, look, it does leave a gap there. There's no doubt about it, but Ricky's got full faith in young Sanders, and he's been promised a spot. He'll start at 7, and I still think it's a wonderful forward pack. It's a well-balanced side. They've got size, they've got speed, and as I said, I think $15 is out of order from the tab. And I think the Raiders should be, in my opinion, paying $8, $9.
The Manly Seagulls are an interesting case because they've had a couple of rough years with injury and a few other things. So $34 for Premiership betting, $2.40 for the top 8. Value or trap?
I think it's a bit of a trap. I would have Manly high. I think with the addition of young Fogarty at halfback, Tommy's going to have a full season behind him. The back line looks pretty good with Kohler there, and obviously Luke Brooks is there. They've got a hard-working forward pack, which you know about. They've got a big forward pack too with Hamoli leading the way there. And I think Manly at $34 is great value, Mobsy. I'm not suggesting that they can win the comp, but at $34, what'd you say for top 8, top 6, top
$2.40. $2.40 to make the top 8 this year.
That's handy money for Manly to make the top 8, $2.40. I'd be whacking a few bucks on the Seagulls at those kind of prices. I think they've got a good side this year, Manly. I think Fogarty will really lead them around, and they'll lose a lot with DCE, but they'll gain a lot in other ways in Jamal Fogarty. Seagulls fans, I'd jump on Manly at $34 and a couple of bucks on reaching the big games.
He's not a runner of the football in the way DCE is Jamal Fogarty. So I've got concerns about that forward pack depth. So they've lost Josh Aloiai to medical retirement. Jazz Tavanga's gone. And I just, their forwards were the area of concern for mine. And obviously when Hamoli went down injured, that was a big blow. But I don't know. I think Manly, having gone through the upheaval they have, and that it's going to be a big transition going from DCE to Fogarty, and is a great replacement. But DCE's been there as long as anyone, so I think there might be a little bit of trouble there for the Seagulls to get things bedded down properly.
Yeah, we say it every year, Mobsy, but I really think that's a bit more responsibility goes on to Tom and Jake. They've been great players for many years, as we know, but I think under the circumstances, in terms of leadership, Tom's the new captain, and in terms of forward leadership, it's got to go back to Jake. Jake's carried a heavy load down there for many years, and his old body's really starting to struggle under the pressure of that. But I think the Trebojeviches, somehow, some way, Mobsy, they're going to be asked to take their game to another level if they really want Manly to compete.
The New Zealand Warriors, before Mitchell Barnett and Luke Metcalf went down injured last season, were fighting for the minor premiership, and now they are listed as 12th in betting maybe. They're $26 for the premiership. They're $5.50 for the top 4, written off by bookmakers.
Yeah, totally friendless. I'm a bit surprised. Look, I don't think the Warriors can win the comp nor finish in the top 4, but as you rightly pointed out, they were heading toward the top 4 finish when Metcalf and Barnett was there. Barnett was a huge loss for them, and obviously for the New South Wales side as well. I thought they might have been a bit tighter than that, to be truthful, Mobsy. But look, the tab bookmakers have got a tough job. You can't put everyone in as either favourites or second or third favourites. Someone's got to be outsiders. I didn't think it would be the Warriors. But having said that, I don't think the Warriors can make the 8 this year. I think they overachieved last year. He did a great job, Andrew Webster. He's an outstanding coach. But if I'm having a few bucks on my top 8 this year, I don't have the Warriors in there.
Yeah, I think they're tremendous value. I think...
you've got no idea, you see. And that's the difference between you and I.
Well, let's see his bank account. Well, I'm not going to put the money on. But Barnett and Metcalf, once they return, and you look at their draw for next season, they play last season's top 3, the Broncos, Storm and Raiders, just once each. No 5-day turnarounds, no trips to Townsville, no trips to Canberra, and travel's the killer for teams, and that's really good for the Warriors. And I tell you what, they weren't far away last year with, you lose your star halfback and your best prop out of any team, and you're going to struggle. And they still managed to finish, 6th, and obviously went out first week of the finals, but I think that's tremendous value for the Warriors going forward, and that young forward pack's only going to get better. So you're going to be eating your words very shortly, my friend.
Yeah, let's see.
All right. Brisbane Broncos, $5 favourites to go back-to-back, $2.75 for the top four. You agree?
Yeah, I probably do, Mobsy. Look, the way they won the grand final this year was absolutely spectacular, wasn't it? The way they rolled through, the excitement, how they came back from every game. I think they're worthy and entitled to be premiership favourites. The side that they beat in the grand final, Melbourne, I think have gone back a pace or two, so I don't think they could have genuinely thought that they would be premiership favourites. So I think the Broncos are about right at $5. In fact, you know what? I thought they could have even been a touch tighter. So at $5, that's not bad value for a side that's probably going into the prime of their roster. You know, that side this year, I think, can go to another level somehow with their speed, with Reece Walsh. They've got a great forward pack. They've got size. They've got everything up there. And I think at $5, that's not bad value.
You just said, let's look at how they won the grand final. Let's look how they made it at the grand final. They needed the luck of the draw against the Raiders. Took them 94 minutes and 2 false starts for the Raiders that we thought had won it. They came back from 14-0 down against the Panthers. The Panthers aren't going to throw away another 14-0 lead going next year. They had everything go right from this year. The stars aligned, and the star being Reece Walsh having a breakout year. Everything went absolutely perfect for them, and at the right end of the time, right end of the year from the win the grand final. And you think that's just going to be the same again?
It doesn't matter how
year.
they won it. They won it. Whether it was a bit of luck or a bounce of the ball, they got the cash. And you know what? It was Michael Maguire, and Buzz will hate me saying this, it was Michael Maguire's rigorous off-season training program which got him home. It was the spear buckets, which Buzz talked about ad nauseum and criticised it, but it was that time of the year when they won the premiership. That was when they won it. It wasn't September when they were behind in all those 3 games, and they had the fitness, they had the toughness, and they had the smarts to get home in those tight games. You're right, Mobsy. There's a bit of luck involved, but that's how you win premierships. And they'll be back bigger, and I think better in 2026.
The bookmakers have made a big call, and that is that they've backed the Dolphins in to make the top 8. They've got them in 8th in top 8 betting. Haven't done it before, weren't able to do it in a couple of years with Wayne Bennett. Christian Wolf couldn't get him over the line, but they're ahead of the likes of the Warriors, the Eels, and the Rabbitohs to make that top 8. Surprised?
Very. Can't make it. Sorry, Dolphins fans. Good side. Katoa at halfback is an absolute gun. He's one of the best young halfbacks I've seen. His skill level is absolutely unbelievable. And they've got a good burgeoning side, but I just don't think they're there yet. I really don't. I think they're a good middle-of-the-road side. They'll win their home games. They'll win a big game here and there. But overall, over a season, I just don't think they can match the big guns. And if they're running 8th in betting, I think that's the tab's got it wrong. I would simply substitute South Sydney into the 8 for the Dolphins. Dolphins, as I said, good side, good coach, but not there yet.
Wayne's old team for his new team. That's interesting from you.
That's how it works.
Yeah. Well, I think they've got a great draw. I think 4 of their first 5 games are in Brisbane. That's not a lot of travel for them. They only played the Raiders, Storm, Bulldogs, and Panthers once. And then you add in Selwyn Cobbo and the Englishman Morgan Knowles. That squad gets better. I do have concerns about the depth of that forward pack, given the fact that they've lost Josh Kerr to the Dragons, Mark Nichols, Kenny Bromwich off into retirement. So I know they've got some younger guys coming through, but that's a fair bit of experience in a pack. And when you've got a young half like Katoa, you need to be playing behind a forward pack that's giving you that room to operate, right?
Well, they're hard hits. They're good old-fashioned hard hits, the 3 names you just mentioned there. You don't replace experience like that, Mobsy. Young kids will come through and they will develop and they will excel, no doubt, in looming years. But right here, right now, to lose 3 players like that, blokes that have been around the block, blokes that have played in grand finals, blokes that have played State of Origin, very hard to replace. It's all right for Katoa to be a young star, which he is, but as you rightly point out, if he doesn't have the pack in front of him to protect him, he will find it very, very difficult to keep this trajectory that he's on.
Who would want to be an NRL coach? The 2 new clipboard holders for next season, Justin Holbrook at the Knights and Josh Hannay taking his first full-time head coaching position at the Titans. Both equal $4.25 most losses favourites. Who's got the bigger job?
Oh, they both do. Both struggled last year big time. Of course, the Titans got rid of Des, and of course, the Newcastle Knights also made changes to their coach, Adam O'Brien, late in the season. So both coaches are starting off under pressure for being in their debut years, and also now a little bit more pressure from the bookies saying that you're equal favourites to run last. I think that the Knights are probably the side, Mobsy, that will struggle this year. I think there's some green shoots at the Gold Coast. I think their roster is a bit more of a burgeoning roster. So I think that the Knights, in my opinion, would be the favourites to win the wooden spoon, or as the tab has it, for most losses. Yes, Kalen Ponga's there, but the rumours continue to swirl around Kalen, whether he really wants to be there. He's saying all the right things, but where there's smoke, there's fire, and I can't help but think that Kalen Ponga has got one eye elsewhere, whether that's in league, union, or tiddlywinks. I don't know, but I think it's the Knights that are looking at wooden spoon again.
Well, I know they picked it up this year, but Kalen Ponga out injured for a long period of time. They get Dylan Brown back next season. That signing there at the Knights. I can't see him with those guys having this, but I think Josh Hannay's got a bigger job, because you have a look at the clean out that he's had. Lost Kieran Foran to retirement. They've let David Fafita go. They've let Lofi Khan Pereira go. He's let Regan Campbell Gillard go. It's kind of reminiscent of what Jason Ryles did at Parramatta with letting RCG go there, Clint Gutherson go. So really cleaning things out, and I think the Gold Coast just have not had success as a rugby league area, and Newcastle, big league town. I know they got the spoon already, but I think Hannay has a much bigger job. But I think they're good appointments, the pair of them. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think Hannay's looking for the future, Mobsy. I think he's let a lot of those blokes go, as you rightly pointed out, and there's some big names there. So whether that's sort of half pie, riding off 2026 with an eye to 27 and 28 to try to rework or remould that roster, which has struggled for many years, I might add. But the Knights are the disappointments for me. Look, I think we're all sick of waiting. It's one of the greatest rugby league towns we've got in the world. The roster's been fairly steady over the years without being brilliant, but they have underachieved for many, many years. And look, Justin Holbrook's a wonderful coach. He proved that with his input at the Roosters. And I think he will get the best out of Newcastle. But at the moment, I think the Knights are going to struggle again. It's a long way back. The whole culture's got to change up there. The roster's got to change. It's not just a matter of bringing a new coach in and saying, wave your magic wand, fix it. It's going to take time. And I think both those clubs, clearly by looking at the tab odds, are going to be probably looking at finishing last and second last for 2026.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to see how they do. I mean, Leo Thompson out, Jaden Brayley, Kai Pearce-Paul. There's some big losses there for Newcastle, but I just keep coming back to Dylan Brown, Kalen Ponga, Fletcher Sharp. They've got some good talent there. So I think that'll be interesting to see. You talk about get the culture back. A guy like Matty Johns is investing in the Titans ownership. So he's putting his nous in there up there on the Gold Coast. So they're sort of doing things on and off the field to try and correct the ship and turn things around. So I think there might be some better times for the Titans. But yeah, probably some pain heading into 2026.